Hello there. While the UK bankrupts itself before the altar of net zero, global emissions of carbon are still on the increase. China and India are leading the way in increasing global carbon emissions from coal, oil and gas. Despite all the COP meetings and talk about electric vehicles, heat pumps and windmills, carbon emissions from burning coal, oil and gas have increased by 6% since the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. Yes, risen, while the UK dons sackcloth and ashes. And this new data comes from the Centre for International Climate Research, or CICERO. And further, according to CICERO, emissions will increase by another 1.1% this year, 2023, which is higher than, in fact double, the 10-year 0.5% average. Glenn Peters, a senior researcher at CICERO, said, "We continually see record growth in clean energy, but we have failed to put sufficient controls on the growth of fossil fuels, and therefore CO2 emissions just keep rising." And the one source of carbon that the eco-zealots take the most issue with, coal, is expected to also see a 1.1% increase in emissions. Now, emissions due to the use of gas had been increasing by 2% a year on average, but that has dropped this year to 0.5%. And why? No, not because of green policy, but due to geopolitical policy post the Russia invasion of Ukraine. Otherwise, it would probably still be going up at about 2% a year. And here we are in the UK impoverishing ourselves and not properly exploiting our own reserves. And most of these carbon emission rises are due to increased coal, oil and gas burning in China, India and international aviation. You know, all those eco-loons travelling from one COP meeting to the next, telling us the planet's on fire. And all these increased emissions are offsetting anything we in the UK get up to in order to further reduce our paltry carbon footprint. Another CICERO senior researcher, Jan Ivar Korsbakken, said, "China has seen continued strong growth in wind and solar power, without which emissions growth would have been much higher. However, and it's a big however, as the one who makes the projections for Chinese emissions, he went on to explain, but solar and wind couldn't meet high electricity demand growth and low hydropower production due to drought. So coal power generation also grew. In addition, increased travel and domestic transport led to strong growth in oil consumption after a drop during the COVID lockdowns in 2022. And then we get to India. Their emissions are set to have increased by over 8% in 2023, mainly driven by the increased use of coal. With the combined increase for international shipping and aviation set to be 11.9% for 2023. OK, some of that was due to a pandemic rebound. While in the US and Europe, emissions are set to drop 3% and 7.4% respectively. But Europe, including the UK and the US, are the ones expected to pay those climate reparations. And the CICERO assessment is that the world is not on track to meet its climate goals. This will have the eco-nutters out there on the streets of the UK in their droves, trying to destroy our economy by stopping as much traffic as they can. Now, a lot of the energy needed by the likes of China is because we outsourced a lot of our manufacturing to them because of their dirt cheap labour costs. And it was a great way to export our carbon footprint, so allowing us to go fake green. And both of those are turning round and biting us in the butt hard. But get this, there are people out there in the UK, especially politicians, who are demanding we somehow become a green energy powerhouse. But to do that, we need to expend a lot of energy to make green energy items like turbines and solar panels. But we just don't have the power, because we refuse to bridge the gap with our own coal, gas and oil, as well as the point-blank refusal, going back decades, to go all out for nuclear. Just 5 days ago, the Telegraph reported that Britain's gas network has already hit full capacity as renewable energy fails to generate the power needed to heat the UK's homes. No spare energy for new families coming into the UK, let alone new factories to build green stuff. So it's a good job that electric car sales have plummeted 17.1% last month, or we'd need to burn even more gas to supply power for more electric cars. And those who say the UK should lead the way on net zero because other countries respect us and would immediately follow suit are probably the exact same people who would claim the UK no longer has any clout on the world stage because of Brexit. Blah, blah, blah. The truth is, other countries would look on and say, good for you, and just carry on doing what's best for them and their people. And while that includes burning coal, oil and gas, guess what they're going to do? Oh, for a time machine to take me back to sanity. Richard.
I was going to talk to you about the new Doctor Who, with a regenerated David Tennant, who is an excellent Doctor Who. But it's not worth talking about because amidst all the really good bits in there, there is an obvious and overt message to make us follow the agenda. And that's just obvious to anyone with half a brain cell who, like me, doesn't like being lectured on things they don't believe in. So I'm not going to waste any more of my breath on that woke BBC rubbish. But I would like to briefly talk to you about the breakup of the United Kingdom. You see, without a unifying belief in this country, the union will fall. And to be honest, I'm not a fan of the nature of this specific arrangement of the union, but there we go. You see, between the four nations, they all suffer. They all suffer from the control and wealth distribution concentrated in one part of England, in the southeast. And even the majority of the English are getting a raw deal from it. And parts of the country, especially in England, no longer resemble Britain. And I personally deeply mourn England. The loss of England, I mourn that deeply, and so should you. Yes, I am English by birth, and my maternal lineage is also significantly English. So yes, I mourn all things that make England great and made England great. But the things that made England great are now disappearing. And any Brit with a heart, regardless of their position on the Union, should mourn the terrible collapse of England as well. Gone are the sounds of leather on willow on a Sunday morning, and gone is the sense of national pride. There is only one pride allowed in this country, and it gets an entire month's worth of observance. And rightly so, of course, yes. King Charles has proven not to be a unifying force, seeing as his allegiances are clearly to the World Economic Forum and not to the people of Britain. So you can write him off as a unifying force, along with his inconsequential offspring, who are also World Economic Forum mouthpieces. It's such a sad situation. So many people look to the royal family and the monarchy as something that unifies the country, but they don't anymore. And I'm not sure how long it's been since they actually did. Because something else has unified the people of Britain. Not the monarchy. No. But is there anything or anyone that can unify us as a nation? Well, the truth is, as I said earlier just now, the kings and queens that unify us, well, they never really did unify us. No, they were legitimized by being presented as ordained by God. And the people years ago believed in God, so that shaped a society with different morals and a different outlook on the world as we have today. Indeed, a set of morals that are quite enviable. And don't get me wrong, in an individual morality basis, no, we've never been perfect as a country because people are not perfect. But at least as a society, we had a higher standard of aspiration in what we wish to attain. Yes, so what I'm trying to say is you cannot rebuild what we have lost in a secularist society, because that society has never been lost and was never secularist to begin with. No, Britain of old was not a secular society. So if you want England back, you had better start to listen, or rather to live closer to the ideals of like that romanticised Merry England of years gone by, with the values that they shared and not with today's vacuous secularist liberal leftism. Anyway, what do you lowly peasants think about what has been said in this video? Leave your pearls of wisdom in the comment section below for Jeff and I to read. And a huge thanks to all of you that believe in what Jeff and I do here by supporting us via Patreon, PayPal and Super Thanks. If it wasn't for you, we would have to cut our output drastically. Links in descriptions box below on how to support us on this channel via the aforementioned mediums of support. And God bless each and every one of you. And bye for now.